Hello, and welcome back for more Beyond Earth news. I'm David, and after a couple weeks apart, with me here is Zach. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad we are both back. Uh, we've been pretty busy in our lives, but let's get into talking about space news. What are
Yeah.
we doing in today's video?
Well, today we're going to do a callback to some of our earlier videos in the format. We're actually going to change things up a bit. We're going to go through a few different things that have happened in space in the last week. Let us know how you feel about the change down below in the comments.
First up, Starliner. The spacecraft has successfully undocked from the International Space Station without its crew. Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams were left behind as the spacecraft began its journey home. They will now become members of Expedition 7172 and will become members of Crew 9 once it reaches the station later this month. Starliner itself has been plagued with issues since its June 5th launch. There were helium leaks before the launch even happened, thruster issues once it reached space, and just last week there was a mystery sound coming from the speakers. The sound was determined to be a simple audio feedback, though the thruster issue ended up being more serious, leading to NASA's decision to have the spacecraft return uncrewed.
Arianespace launched the last of their Vega rockets on September 4th. The launch happened at Guiana Space Center in French Guiana. Its payload consisted of the Sentinel-2C, a Copernicus satellite for the European Commission. The Vega is a small-lift rocket in service since 2012. With 22 launches, it has been mostly used by different European agencies. Moving forward, the Vega C will be the small-lift rocket for Europe. As for the payload, it was delivered to a sun-synchronous orbit. The Copernicus program is Europe's Earth observation program, with various pairs of satellites being teamed together to provide data. Sentinel-2 is used to provide high-resolution imaging of various land regions. Sentinel-2C is being sent to replace Sentinel-2A, which has been in service since 2014.
Hardware for the Artemis missions has arrived at the Kennedy Space Center. September 3rd saw the delivery of the European Service Module aboard the Canopy. The ESM is destined to fly on Artemis 3. Then, on September 5th, NASA's Pegasus barge delivered hardware for the SLS rockets. This hardware will be used for Artemis 2, 3, and 4.
On September 3rd, Rocket Lab announced the launch window for their next flight. The flight will be the second of 5 dedicated launches for the French Internet of Things company, Kinéis. The mission, named Kinéis Killed the Radiostar, is set to launch on an Electron rocket from Launch Complex 1 in Mahia, New Zealand. The launch window opens on September 17th and will last for 14 days.
SpaceX achieved another successful Falcon 9 launch on September 5th. This launch lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The exact payload is classified as the mission is for the National Reconnaissance Office. The booster made a successful landing on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean.
A solar sail demonstration may be experiencing some technical difficulties in space. The Advanced Composite Solar Sail System, or ACS-3, was able to successfully deploy the solar sail on August 29th. This was after a previous attempt on August 25th was called off. However, an observer in the Netherlands has noticed that the craft appeared to dim and then brighten multiple times during a flyover, which it hadn't previously done. This could be caused by the craft tumbling or wobbling in orbit.
SpaceManic, a Slovak satellite company, has announced plans for a future mission. The mission is called LaserSat and was thought up by Czech high school students. A small CubeSat will be sent up to test if lasers can be used to change the trajectory of orbital debris. It will accomplish this by vaporizing a small piece of the debris, which will create a gas pocket. The gas will then act as a mini thruster, changing the trajectory.
Moving on, Sierra Space announced on September 4th that their Shooting Star module has completed acoustic testing at the Kennedy Space Center. The testing put the module through the stresses that it would experience during a Vulcan launch. The Shooting Star will be attached to the aft of Dream Chaser and will provide an additional 7,000 pounds or 3,175 kilograms of space.
NASA has begun to get a better look of heat emissions from the polar regions. The new data is being collected by the Polar Radiant Energy and the Far Infrared Experiment, or PREFIRE. The mission consists of 2 satellites that were launched in May and June. They started delivering their data in July. This mission is the first to systematically measure emissions from the polar regions.
The electric propulsion system that will maneuver the Gateway station destined to orbit the moon is undergoing tests, according to NASA. The system will be part of the station's power and propulsion element developed by Maxar Technologies. Private spaceflight Polaris Dawn was scheduled to launch on Friday the 6th. Unfortunately, that date has slipped and is tentatively scheduled for Monday the 9th. It appears that weather at the landing zone is the cause for the most recent delay. OHB, a German aerospace company, has been awarded a contract by the European Space Agency. The contract will see the company demonstrate how uninterrupted communication between passenger cars can be ensured with the use of satellites integrated with existing 5G networks. Redwire Space, a company focused on the exploration and use of space, has acquired a spacecraft development company, Hera Systems Incorporated. Hera specializes in missions for national security customers.
Capella Space, a satellite intelligence company, has announced that SATM, a leader in automatic object detection and classification, has become a certified analytic partner. Combining SATM's detection software with Capella's data will allow for quick, precise identification of vessels, aircraft, and ground targets. Spaceflight Laboratory, a satellite builder, has been contracted by NewView, a 3D Earth imaging company, to create the satellite buses for their new constellation. The bus, called Mr. Spock, will demonstrate the capabilities of this first ever commercially available LiDAR constellation. U.S. Space Force leadership has recently returned from a visit to Staff Guardians and their UK counterparts. The reason for the visit was to ensure that all these elements were ready to work as allies in space. Finally, the Mars Society has announced plans to start a grassroots campaign to get Congress to pass legislation that would have NASA develop a plan to reach Mars within a decade. The group has created a draft of the Mars Exploration Act in preparation for Congress's approval. They are organizing their chapters across the nation to sit down with their congressional representatives. Well, there was a lot that happened last week, wouldn't you say, David?
Absolutely. There was a lot to cover, and this new format allowed us to do a lot more than we normally would. Mm-hmm. What was something that caught your mind or your attention in particular?
For last week, I liked the Vega launch. Mm-hmm. I watched that, and it's the last of that particular version, so it was kind of a momentous occasion. Also, the Shooting Star cargo module updates are interesting. I'm ready for Dream Chaser, which I believe is happening later this year, and then the Gateway propulsion system stuff. We're getting that tested. We're getting closer to that moment where we have a space station orbiting the moon. What about you, David? Any of the stories from last week catch you?
Yeah. In particular, I've been following the Starliner situation closely, and I'm glad to see that things have started to come towards a resolution. Mm-hmm. I've also really been interested in that solar sail project, the ACS-3, and I certainly hope that things are going okay up there for that. It was such a cool project, mm-hmm. and hopefully it's able to sort itself out, or maybe it's not even anything going wrong. Maybe we'll find out more. Yeah. I'm excited to see an update on that. Mm-hmm. What caught your attention at home? Let us know in the comments down below.
Please watch for more Beyond Earth news.
Thanks for watching.